Hey folks, this is Matthew Mpemba, creator of Matt and Zoo Webcomics, and I want to talk to you guys about the new show, The Ghost and Molly McGee. Now, I just watched the first part of the first episode because they have the two episodes kind of intertwined. I guess they're like about maybe 12 minutes long each. So I just watched the first episode. One of the big things that I realized about the show was just how I didn't think there was going to be a back plot to it. Like, you know, how back in the day, like the 90s cartoons were just like bing, bada boom. Each episode was something different. Like I said before in previous videos, somebody lost a leg in one video, boom, they got their leg back in another one. This show, I feel, is going to have a continuing trend. I think it's going to show a lot of emotion, a lot of heart. So far, well, let me just jump right into the actual episode itself. So you have like the council, the ghost council, and they decide whether or not the ghost of a particular town is making that town miserable. So are they doing their job or are they failing at it? And of course, right in the beginning, you see a ghost who's like trying their best to try to keep the misery in their town as bad as possible. They fail, of course, and get sent over to another interdimensional whatever, probably a jail or something like that. But then Scratch shows up and his town is just inherently miserable, so he doesn't really have to do much. So he's kind of a terrible ghost. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just bad at his job. But he doesn't have to worry because he basically fails upwards. It doesn't matter. So you kind of get that perspective that right off the bat, Scratch is just no good. He doesn't know what he's doing. But thank God that whoever's running that town is just terrible. Introduction to Molly McGee and her family, who show up to this old abandoned house, which of course is Scratch's house. She shows up, and of course she's just downright one of the cutest characters I've ever seen. So she's just having a great time. She really likes to see Scratch. She's having, I mean, my gosh, just the stuff that she says. One of the parts that she says is just absolutely phenomenal. I love it so much. But Molly's character is just, to me, again, this is probably about like, you know, showing different racial backgrounds in cartoons. And I think she's Thai, kind of like in Amphibia with Anne. So I'm liking to see a lot of the diversity in cartoons. I think that's so prominent today, so good. But this show's topic is great. So right in the beginning, you got Molly McGee shows up. She convinces her family that Scratch is not a bad idea. Scratch is a pretty good friend. And then at the very end, it kind of gives you a whammer, like a little whammer at the end to tell you, hey, something's wrong. So now that Molly McGee's there, the town starts becoming a little less miserable. So the little ticking time clock, little ticking time, whatever, is just, it's going upward. So it's actually making the town happier, which is a problem. So I kind of want to know how they're going to blend that two together. I know obviously that Scratch isn't really good friends with them in the beginning because that's just how every cartoon starts. You have, it's kind of like a formula. Cartoons have a really good formula with that. They always have one character who's very extroverted, very outgoing, and then you have one who's very introverted and kind of angry. He's very passive aggressive. So you have that kind of in lines with whatever's going on in the series. Those two characters are always the most prominent. Excuse me, before that I burped a little bit. But those are the most prominent characters that you can find in cartoons. And I think that the wild successfulness of how this show presented itself could literally be one of the best Disney XD shows out there. So if you haven't watched it yet, please do so now. So besides that, I was looking back at some of the original. Oh, by the way, if you are interested, Comic-Con is going to have a booth with them between October 8th and 11th. So if you want to be able to meet the cast or, you know, be able to get some pictures signed for that one, that's always important. I think this show offers so much promise, not just because of the storyline, but because of how they introduce the characters, how they develop the story. I really think that this is going to be a prominent story, especially for Disney. I think we're seeing Disney is on the precipice of creating something very good. They're getting a lot of talent out there, such as Craig McCracken, who was the one who did Wander Over Yonder. I mean, my God, what a series. So Disney, I remember back in the day, I used to think Cartoon Network, one of my favorite channels. Then I remember at 10 o'clock, Toonami Jetstream would come on. One of my favorite one of my favorite networks. So right off the bat, Cartoon Network back in the day, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, was still my favorite. It was incredible. I wasn't big into Nickelodeon, even though I loved a lot of their cartoons, but Cartoon Network was just a way. It was like, this is your home. This is your home Cartoon Network style, whatever. But now Disney seems to be really ramping up. Whatever they're doing, they're deciding to take risks. And what I mean by that is look back at the Owl House. I know I've spoken about that before, but the Owl House introduced I believe it was either gay or bi characters, which is huge because you're opening a market for a lot of people who, have a tendency to think Disney's very linear with their stories. This is not the case anymore. You're starting to see a lot of opening for that one. And backplot storylines. So what I mean by backplot is whenever you're watching a series, there's this overarching storyline that just kind of continues. So like you got your characters, they're streamlined to go through here, and this is the overarching story. But what's great is that they're really developing these characters so that they're growing around the overarching story. One of them is with Amphibia, you get to watch Anne, Marcy, and Sasha grow up. And I do believe you're going to see that with Molly McGee, because right off the bat, you could see that she's kind of like, she's very happy-go-lucky, but you could see that there's still this humanized side to it. Because I don't know if you've ever, I think the original design, I think she was a little too much. I remember looking back at the original concept art for it, and I think she was just over the top and a little too much. That could be too much for certain characters. Like, because I develop a lot of my cartoons on my own, and I find that sometimes I make characters a little too annoying, because it's always so easy, because if you have those two counteracting characters like Scratch and Molly, who one is like chaotic sarcasm and the other one's chaotic good and crazy, they blend and they can balance each other out.
Oh no. This curse just got worse.
No way. You come to me whenever I say your name? On demand, bestie? It's the future of friendship.
But I don't like it when a character is just overall happy all the time. It kind of eludes from a good story plot that you could have. So the fact that Molly McGee is, you can tell that sometimes things hurt her, like the part where she says, I'm leaving behind my friends.
Could you leave, please?
Ooh, sorry. Nope on that. See, Dad's city planner job pulled us McGees from Ada, Oklahoma to Zuni, New Mexico, and everywhere in between. I've left behind a lot of friends. But Brighton's gonna be different. We McGees are making our forever home. Right here. And I've already got a forever friend.
Oh, please, I am not a part of your problems.
I really like that. I think that's such a powerful little scene, even though, it was just quick and easy and she jumped right back again. It shows that she still has a lot of pain from her family moving to these areas, but she's not willing to let that get her down. But, with the whole back overarching storyline that, with Scratch and everything, it's her best friend, something's going to happen to him and it's going to pull her into kind of like a little bit of sadness. So it's going to develop the story, create the characters, and move forward with that. Overarching plot lines give you the leeway to do so. And that's why I think cartoons today, and I mean, I love cartoons back then, but I think cartoons today are really, really pushing the envelope of what I thought was normal for cartoons. And I am very excited to see where they're going to go. Again, if you have not seen Molly McGee, I'm going to put it in the top. Obviously, it's a little late for that, but it's spoilers. There's always spoilers in this one, so don't watch. But if you haven't watched it, please go ahead and watch it. If you have watched it, you probably already know what I'm saying, and I want to know what you think of the series, and maybe I'm going too in-depth with the series and thinking of more things from it. But if you have any comments, concerns, or if you want to just subscribe and like this video, please do, and I will see you next time.